Light it up on a Thursday from Austin, Texas. Not just any Thursday. It's May 4th. May the 4th be with you for those Star Wars fans out there. It's also a big day on the high school ranks because by-district baseball playoffs get underway tonight across the state of Texas. I'm Cameron Parker. Craig Way is on his way to Lawrence, Kansas for Texas baseball series against the Jayhawks. Jeff Howe is en route and joining us in the studio. He's the producer of Mornings with Bucky and Aaron, and he also co-hosted the Texas post-game spring game broadcast with me a few weeks ago. It's Ty Henderson. Ty, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Cam. How are you?
You have your coffee yet this morning?
I'm 3 cups deep.
Okay.
About to get my 4th.
So we discussed last week that you don't like drinking hot coffee. You don't like drinking cold energy drinks because you like to chug it, right?
I'm a chugger. Yeah.
Okay.
When it comes, any alcoholic beverage too, really.
You just chug. You just shotgun it?
Yeah. Well, when I went to Texas Tech for a very short time, my freshman year of college, the main thing I learned there was the scoop and score. If you ever heard of it, where you scoop out all the ice out of a drink and then you chug it, score it.
Yeah.
And I've taken that
Ever
to
since?
new levels. Yeah.
Do you participate in May 4th? May the 4th be with you?
Big
Okay,
time.
so you're a big Star Wars guy.
Oh yeah.
Give me your rundown on your favorite Star Wars movies. Because I know the Specs text line at 512-337-3776 has got to be some big Star Wars fans.
Yeah, the original trilogy, those three will always be the best for me. It could be any one of the three on any day I could call the best. They're all great. And then the next three, the prequels that came out when we were, a little bit younger and growing up, I really like those. But as time went on, I kind of realized that episode 1 and 2 maybe weren't the best and maybe kind of played towards kids more, you know, with the whole Jar Jar Binks and such. But yeah, the first 6 I love. I've watched a little bit of The Mandalorian. One or two of the newer Star Wars movies, but I haven't completely bought into the new ones yet.
Yeah, the newest trilogy. When you have 3 different directors for each one and 3 different writers, like the storylines just didn't make any sense. And I'm still hung up on the fact that they brought the Emperor back in the trailer for the last movie. It's like you had 2 movies to kind of set up his return. We're just going to release it in the trailer, by the way.
Yeah, that seems silly. Are you a fan of any of the Star Wars video games? I know there's a new one that just came out.
Let's see. I played. So was it Battlefield?
Battlefront.
Yeah, big Battlefront fan. I had the original Xbox on that.
Yeah, that one.
Even when they re-released it on the Xbox One, enjoyed that. Lego Star Wars. Growing up as a kid,
of course.
You can't beat any Lego games. Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones.
I'm not gonna lie. I did play the new Lego Star Wars that came out this year.
Good.
For what it is, it's a fun play.
Something about knocking down the crap and releasing the coins is just
satisfying.
It's like ASMR,
and it's kind of funny. Like the storylines are funny too.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing Minecraft, where it's just minimal brain activity is involved in it. You can just kind of sit back and relax. It's kind of just like watching your favorite TV shows. Specs text line already chiming in. Star Wars for me is like the Fast movies for you, Cam. Never seen one movie of Star Wars. Yeah.
I've never seen Fast and Furious either.
Thank you. Okay, so me and you on the same page because they've made about 70 of them.
Yeah, I'm like they must be all right. I'm not a big car guy.
Okay,
I do have a newfound love for NASCAR. Thank you, Rodney Rodriguez, if you're out there listening.
Yes.
I've watched a lot of NASCAR in the past month, but car movies, not so. I still don't know much about cars, or when you hear all these making. So it doesn't really interest me.
Let's put a pin in this. Who's your favorite driver right now in the NASCAR level? Do you have one yet, or you're still trying to feel it out?
I know Wags has tried to get me into Martin Truex Jr. He won me some money this week.
Yeah.
I like, and pretty much anyone that's won me money. Kyle Busch, I know everyone hates him, but I pick him almost every week because he seems like he's up there.
Yeah.
And I kind of do like liking people that everyone hates. So I'm right now, Kyle Busch or Allmendinger.
Okay. I would peg you as a Ross Chastain.
Yes, I do like Ross Chastain.
Let's talk about guys who were hated. Every week there is some sort of issue with Ross Chastain pissing off some other drivers. So I feel like you would like Chastain. Martin Truex Jr., he's about to retire. I think this might be his last season, if not next year. And then Kyle Busch, yeah.
See, you know more about NASCAR than I do.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Charlotte.
Yeah, okay. So that's
I grew up going
7,
to the
huh?
track. I grew up going to the track and tailgating with Bojangles Sweet Tea and Bud Light. So I grew up on the hillbilly. I had that hillbilly side of me, the redneck side of me from my mom's side.
I still have. I haven't been to one of the races out here for NASCAR yet, but I've heard Texas Motor Speedway. Like you bring your own cooler, fill it up, tailgate, post game in the parking lot after. I hear it's a great time. A lot of my friends and enjoy that. I need to make it up there.
The frustrating part about the race at COTA is that I haven't been yet because it's the same weekend as the Dell Match Play.
Yeah, that was the issue this year.
And NASCAR, they knew that, and they still scheduled it for some reason.
We won't have to worry about that next year.
Unfortunately and fortunately. So next year I'm excited to get out there with Stuplex Stu and Rodney Rodriguez and finally take in a stock car race at COTA because I've been there for IndyCar. Haven't been there yet for F1. That would probably cost me my entire life savings to get a ticket to the F1 race. You been out to F1 yet at all time?
Very briefly, like when they first started doing it out there, but I haven't made it back since I know it. I still haven't watched any F1.
Okay.
I didn't watch Drive to Survive on Netflix.
Yeah,
it's kind of been sitting there on my my queue of stuff I need to watch. But same with the golf series too. Just never started it. I feel like it's too late now.
I don't know if it's too late. Because I was not into F1 until 2021 because of Drive to Survive. They're actually racing in Miami this week. And for the golf stuff, I mean, you can get in that anytime. And I know you've kind of watched and bet on golf. For F1, they release the season every year, so I feel like you can still get into it, and you can kind of just, binge your way through it. But for the most part, it gets repetitive. Like, once you kind of, like, really get into F1 in the aspect of it, like, it gets repetitive because they basically pull the same coach from the same drivers every season. It's still a good show if you have no idea what's going on in the F1. The same thing for the golf one. As like a golf nerd, that show was not made for me. It's made for
people that don't
have no idea what's going on. Every episode they mention the cut and how the cut works and what a bogey and what a birdie is. Like, all right, we can skip past this. You have access to the Live PGA stuff. Like, I want to see that. I know what a cut is. You don't have to explain what the cut is.
Are they making another season of that show?
I think so.
Do you think that the next season will be more
with Drive to Survive, it's like it's the same thing. It's just like, they'll interview a driver and it's like, yeah, I really want to win. It's like, really? Like, that's ground, and they'll just, it's like when you're in the car, there's nothing like it. It's the same stuff every single episode. So it gets a little bit repetitive, but excited for Miami F1 this week and excited to be able to finally get out to COTA. But Ty, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Coming up, Jeff Howe will be joining us in studio. We got some big basketball news in the Big 12 front, but it's not about Texas.
Can I kick it? Yes, you can. You can. Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. You can. Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Well, I'm gone. Can I kick it? To all the people who can quest like a tribe does.
Hour number 1 of Light the Tower on the Horn. Jeff Howe, Cameron Parker. Craig Way out today. Craig is on his way to Lawrence for that Texas-Kansas baseball series. We'll get into that tomorrow. Cam, thanks to you and Tyrus for sitting in.
Of course.
I heard you guys talking NASCAR. So you've been to NASCAR races, yes?
I grew up with them, baby.
Okay. So we got a Longhorn Notebook coming up here in just a few minutes. Inconceivable to close out hour number 1. And then Longhorn Notebook and our Flex Update coming up next hour. One of my most regrettable sports experiences ever was not going to a NASCAR race.
Okay.
So this would have been 2006. If I believe it was. I think I'm correct about the year. It was the spring race at Texas. And one of my college buddies, his dad had won, I think it was five or six passes to like a VIP experience to the spring race at TMS. And it was like they got an RV to drive them up there. It stayed in the infield, the whole deal. And at the time, I can say this now because the company no longer exists except for one store in Bend, Oregon. I was working at Blockbuster at the time.
Oh, my goodness.
And, Blockbuster is one of those places that, as long as you can get somebody to cover your shift, they didn't really care if you took the weekend off or whatever. And I'm like, well, I've covered for people on the weekends and, nobody needs to know I'm going to NASCAR. So this is, I think I got a really good chance of doing this. This should be a piece of cake. Well, that unfortunately was one weekend that the manager was like, yeah, we're not having anybody switch shifts that weekend. I'm like, why? Well, because so-and-so was out of town and so-and-so had a wedding to go to. So if you're scheduled, you can't get off. So I tell my buddies, I'm like, dudes, I can't go. So I ended up staying back that weekend. So it was two of my college roommates, one of my buddies, his dad, and a couple other people ended up going. And they get there like for qualifying and the Busch Series race and the whole deal, right? It's all weekend. And the voicemails I was getting, this is back when people still checked their voicemail. The voicemails I was getting throughout the weekend, they were progressively drunker and drunker and drunker to the point by like the time Sunday rolled around, the voice messages were inaudible. Like I could not understand what was being said on the voicemails.
Were you able to save any of those?
No. That was like 3 or 4 phones ago.
Oh, man.
So, dude, it was and the stories they still tell, whenever we get together, the stories they still tell about that weekend. It just hurts me a little because I'm like, I missed out on what is now known in my circle of friends as the NAS holiday.
Yeah, the NAS, I like it.
Oh, man, it just kills me. So
did they like rent an RV and hang out in the infield?
No, that's the thing. So the radio, there was a radio station in Houston, and like the radio station rented them an RV. Wow. and like parked it in the infield, like the whole deal, man. It was awesome.
It's a really fun experience. I know people get hung up with like, they're just turning left and everything, but it's like if you go, I mean, it's more about like the experience because you get there early. Yeah. It's kind of like a football game. You start tailgating, and if you're in the infield, I mean, there's nothing like it because you're seeing everyone come in. You're seeing all the pre-race ceremonies and stuff, the actual race, the post-race celebrations. You got your I mean, people come in. They bring like inflatable pools and stuff. They're hanging out.
So Chris Dukes, again, one-time Statesman employee, now with CBS Sports, one of my best friends ever. The way he has explained it to me and the way that I understand it, and Cam, you can tell me if I'm dead wrong, but the way he described it, I'm like, okay, so it's basically like an SEC home football game on steroids. It's basically what a NASCAR weekend is like.
Yeah. I would think so because
like everybody's got the grills out and everybody's cooking and everyone's sharing food and sharing beverage, and it's
a lot
just,
of white people.
It is one just big, huge, gigantic party.
A lot of white people, a lot of country music. Yeah. So, yeah, I would agree with that. I agree with that. And I would say, and probably the same amount of fights that break out. My favorite experience was the first year I went for qualifying, and my dad took me. And we're sitting in turn 1, and Kyle Busch, he was still driving the M&M's 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. He comes out, and there's a guy in front of me. He's probably on his 50th.
Did Kyle Busch drive the 5 for Hendrick at one point in time?
Actually, I
or was
think
that
you're
Kurt
right.
Busch?
No, Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch drove the Miller Lite Dodge.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
He raced for Penske. He drove the Miller Lite. I think you're right about that for a little bit. Busch comes out. He does a qualifying lap. There's a guy in front of me. You can tell he's out of his mind. And every time Kyle Busch would drive around, he would raise both his middle fingers up and just follow him around the track. And that was my first ever introduction to NASCAR. I was like, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot.
On that NAS holiday, though, there's so many of those stories I can't tell on the air.
Oh, I bet.
But one does involve the guys. I think this was Saturday night, walking around on the infield and walking by someone's trailer, and a lady who, let's just say, was under the influence steps out of her trailer and after some quick dialogue looks at one of my buddies and asks, and I quote, "Where's the meth?" And they knew that was their cue to get out of there.
Oh my
and just
God.
Go somewhere else.
Where's the meth?
Where's the meth? Yeah. There's so much of that. This thing about that, Cam, that's the cleanest part of that story that I can tell.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, Jeff, what Blockbuster did you work at? I was a store manager at multiple stores in South Austin. I worked at the Georgetown, what was the Georgetown 2 location up by Sun City, kind of by Craig's HEB, the DB Wood Road HEB. It was in that shopping center. I think I worked a couple of shifts at the old Georgetown one, which is kind of in that shopping center. I don't even know what's there anymore. There used to be a Subway there, and there was like a haircut place. I don't even know if Shortstop is there anymore, but it was in that shopping center right off of pretty much right at Williams Drive and Austin Avenue. I worked at the San Marcos one for a little bit, and then my last location of employment was the Buda location.
So you had a cup of coffee at Blockbuster then?
I was there for a few years, yeah.
Wow.
It was one of those deals I'd quit and then heard they were hurting for help and didn't take much to get me hired back.
Man, Blockbuster was one of my favorite spots growing up because I loved being able to rent movies because we didn't have cable growing up, barely any TV, so it was always go to Blockbuster. And when Redbox came around, 99-cent movies.
Dude, the hardest thing though to explain to people was I was watching, I think it was the Netflix documentary on Blockbuster.
They have a sitcom too, right?
They do, but this was like the documentary. It was like the downfall of Blockbuster. I think it might have been called Be Kind, Please Rewind. I think might have been the name of it. But it's basically when Blockbuster instituted the no late fees policy, and basically pretty much how that went a long way towards killing Blockbuster.
Really?
Yeah. I was working at Blockbuster at that time. They were doing the whole no late fees bit.
What was the late fee, like 99 cents or something?
Something. It depended on how old the movie was, and then there used to be back in the day, some video stores would charge you a late fee if like you didn't rewind your VHS tape all the way. They'd charge you like that rewinding fee. But it was like if it was past a certain number of days, you could either pay $1.25 restocking fee, or I think to bring it back, or I think you got auto charged like the cost of the movie to your credit or debit card, whatever you had in your account. I know this is like a lot of kind of inside baseball stuff with Blockbuster that people probably don't care about, but we got on that conversation. So
then Netflix came out, and you could, before it was like the actual streaming app on your TV, it was you would go to the website and you would rent the movies from you, and you could return it anytime you wanted to. That's what really hurt.
I used to work at TMS back in years 2 to 5 of the Speedway. There was only one word needed to describe the infield: hedonism. That's based on what I was told. That Purple Buffalo's daddy lets me know the old Shortstop location is now a Starbucks. Man, everywhere's a Starbucks. Cameron, have you ever had Shortstop? You ever had a burger from Shortstop?
I haven't. There's one on 79 though.
It has been Oh man, I honestly might have been in high school the last time I had a shortstop burger. It's been so long I can't even tell you what a shortstop burger tastes like. It's been that long. But shout out to Purple Buffalo's daddy, getting the Morse code going this morning from up in his neck of the woods in Gerald. All right. What do you say, Ken? Let's go ahead, because I need to get your take on this too. Let's go ahead and get to the Longhorn Notebook.
Jeff Howe's Longhorn Notebook.
So some good stuff over at Horns 24/7. We'll talk some Texas basketball later in the show. But, Cam, I want to talk Texas football because there's a really good piece right now up on the site. And Chip Brown with the insider piece this morning. And I like the fact that Chip in the insider sometimes, whenever we do a long form piece, those are really good because you can get really, really in depth. And there's a really good piece on Malik Murphy. Kind of covers the fact that, yeah, his trainer did have colleges reaching out to him first before he actually signed with Texas when Quinn Ewers committed, and then right around the end of spring practice and basically pretty much all throughout Malik's time at Texas. But we were able to see him in the spring game, and a healthy Malik Murphy looks like he's going to be a factor in this thing at some point. Probably not in 2024 and 2023 unless, knock on wood, something happens to Quinn Ewers. But maybe one of those scenarios, Cam, and I think, is this your best case scenario, is that Quinn Ewers balls out this fall, goes pro, and then next spring of 24, it's Malik Murphy versus Arch Manning, and the winner of that is your starting quarterback in 2024. And at that point, the loser of that battle probably wouldn't be long for the program.
Yeah, and I think the part of that is because it guarantees that the Texas offense improved this season. The O-line was good. The receivers were good. You didn't have a lot of drops and just kind of game plans that really were so frustrating this past season.
Yeah.
If Quinn Ewers has that good year and can go to the draft in the first round, then I think that means also Texas is 9-10 win team.
I keep bringing it up, and I'll be on with Chad and Zay today at 105. But when I was on the phone, and I'll be in studio doing it this time, but when I was on the phone with those guys last week, one of the mock drafts had come out already for 2024 and had Quinn Ewers in the first round. And Chad asked me, he said, hey, if Quinn Ewers is in the first round, what does that mean? So it probably means Texas won the Big 12, or at least got to Arlington, because you're going to need Quinn Ewers to be much more consistent while maintaining upping the level of production game to game that he had last year. Because you don't have the luxury of being able to just, in times of crisis, turn around and hand the ball to Roshan or Bijan. We talked about it on Longhorn Blitz this week. The offense, whatever the ceiling for the offense is going to be determined really by two things: the growth of Quinn Ewers as a quarterback, and really the growth of Steve Sarkisian, not so much as a play caller, but his ability. We talked about this yesterday. His ability to make in-game adjustments and how he grows in that area and winning the chess match, and can throughout the course of a game, and when a game gets tight in the fourth quarter, are you giving your team a schematic advantage? That's to me where Sark has to grow, and by proxy, it's going to be Quinn's growth too. But if that happens, then that'll mean, like you said, Kim, that means the offensive line will have really come together. And regardless who's the starting quarterback, you're going to have Kelvin Banks as your left tackle in 2024. You probably lose JT Sanders after this year. You probably lose, plan on losing JT Sanders and losing Xavier Worthy after this year. Jordan Whittington's out of eligibility. So what does your receiver room look like? It could look drastically different, or it could just be, hey, Jonte Cook and DeAndre Moore and Ryan Niblett, those guys get elevated, and maybe you go into the portal to get one, and boom, you're off and running again with some really talented guys. So I know that's projecting a lot, but I think that is the best case scenario for Texas. But when you look at Malik Murphy specifically, and I don't think this is I don't know, where are you at, Cam, on this? Because I don't think it's a holier than thou deal to be like, oh man, he's staying and competing. And in this day and age of the transfer portal, that really means something. So I don't want to make it sound like that's a holier than thou deal, like, where that's the whole you don't deserve credit for things you're supposed to do kind of deal. That's where I see that. But let's be honest, there is something redeeming about a guy that's willing to look at the depth chart and say, no, I believe in myself. I can compete. And you know what? Even if I've got to wait another fall and it's next spring before I can compete, I can be the starting quarterback at Texas.
I think I feel the same way about this, that Rodney Terry does about the guys he's been recruiting. We want guys who want to step in and earn it, right? And for Malik Murphy, I mean, for those who are saying he's going to hit the transfer portal, and Sark even talked about it at his Houston, what would you call it?
Yeah, his press conference before the Touchdown Club of Houston luncheon last week. Actually, you know what, Cam? Let's go ahead and play. We haven't played this code. We still, by the way, again, big thank you to Cameron for his sacrifice and cutting all this audio that we're actually being able to string out a little bit and use. But yeah, this was Sark talking about Malik Murphy.
I'm not surprised. I think that, again, and I'm going to talk more about this in here, but in my opinion, we have a great culture, and it takes time to build a culture. Culture is organic. It's not something you put up on the wall in your locker room. It's not something on a t-shirt to me. It is organic. It's built over time. It's built through relationships. It's built through love. It's built through building people up. And the people we recruit buy into cultures like that. Malik, if you really looked at his track record when he was at Sarah High School, was not the frontline starter as a sophomore, was not always the frontline starter as a junior. They had another player there that was a quarterback too. Malik could have transferred then. He bought into being a great teammate. He bought into working with that guy. And inevitably what happened for Malik, he ends up winning a state championship his senior year. He ends up signing with the University of Texas. He's fulfilling his dreams of being a Division I college football quarterback and ultimately trying to pursue the NFL. So I think he has a vision and a dream for what it's going to look like for him at Texas too. But if I go recruit quarterbacks who will go to 3 and 4 or 5 high schools throughout their time, well, then I should worry about those guys leaving when I get them too, right? Because history is the best indicator of the future. And so when you look at things historically in recruiting and you really do your homework, you have an idea of what they're going to look like when players are on your roster. So no, I'm not surprised by Malik. I think he's a great young man. I think he's an awesome teammate. I think there's a level of appreciation in the quarterback room and on our team for the work that he's done and for what he's had to overcome from an injury standpoint. And I think people in our organization are generally happy for him that he's able to finally go out and play and show what he's capable of doing.
And I'll say this too, Cam. I think Sark deserves credit for this because I've seen way too many Texas coaches, be it Mac Brown at the end, even Tom Herman to an extent, and certainly Charlie Strong / Sean Watson, whoever was making the decisions on quarterbacks. It's really tough to stick to your guns and say, this is the kind of quarterback that I want to run my offense. I want a guy that profiles like this, that has these intangibles, but the on-field skill set looks a lot like this, and the body type looks like this, and I want him to function like this. And Sark, if you look at the quarterbacks he's taken, man, with Quinn, Malik, Arch, Trey Owens in 2024. All those guys profile the same. I mean, Sark's not recruiting dual threat guys because the quarterback run game is never going to be a big part of his offense. It's just not. That doesn't mean he's going to recruit unathletic quarterbacks. To me, and for those who have heard me say this will sound like a broken record. People define quote unquote dual threat quarterbacks in a different way. My interpretation of it, what does it mean to be a dual threat quarterback? Can you design a legitimate run game around that quarterback? So by definition, Sam Ehlinger would be a dual threat quarterback. Shane Buechele would not have been a dual threat quarterback. Tyrone Swoops, dual threat quarterback. Malik Murphy, not a dual threat quarterback. You can say that about Quinn Ewers. That doesn't mean they're unathletic. You're just not going to design run games around those guys. So we just go through the lineage, right? Like Mac towards the end, everything was just so discombobulated. And I've said this about those last 3 or 4 years with Mac at the helm. I think at some point, especially post 2010, it felt like Mac just got so consumed with trying to get it back on track and trying to win games that a lot of stuff that shouldn't have gotten overlooked did. And the quarterback evaluations, just nothing really lined up, right? Like you start with that 2010 recruiting class, like Connor Wood and Case McCoy, those skill sets did not line up at all. They weren't anywhere close to similar to each other. And then you take David Ash. And then you take Connor Brewer, and you look at those two guys, and they're nothing alike. And Jalen Overstreet was nothing like them. And Tyrone Swoops was nothing like those two guys. So it just got all out of whack. And Gerard Hurd's in there somewhere, even though he never played for Mac Brown. But it was like you're just trying to recruit the best. It was kind of symbolic of that offensive identity crisis Texas went through. It's like you're stockpiling talent, but you're not really building a team because it seems like you're just based on whoever wins your job. You're just going to be prepared to keep changing offenses until you get it right. We know Mac ran out of time. And then Charlie's quarterback recruiting was – and they left a lot to be desired. We talk about Matthew Merrick and Kyle Loxley, and they got it right with Shane Buechele. I'll give him that. And going all in on Sam, finally, they got that one right, so I'll give them that. But he never got to see it through. And then it felt like Tom Herman was on the right track, and then at some point they just decided, no, we want to focus on somebody that can just really rip it. Well, that's great, but that's not what your offense is built around. You know, when Tom Herman's offense is at its best, you've got the quarterback run game, and whether it's, you know, a home run hitter like Braxton Miller, or you got, as Tom Herman would describe them, singles and doubles hitters like Sam Ehlinger and JT Barrett, you've got to have the quarterback run game be a part of that. Like, honestly, looking back on it, Cam, Quinn Ewers would have been a terrible fit in a Tom Herman offense. Like, could Quinn have produced at a high level? Yeah, absolutely, because he's one of those guys that with his arm talent, he's going to produce whatever offense he's in. But if you're going to line Quinn up and run quarterback power and quarterback counter, that's just a misappropriation of funds, if you will. Like, that's not how you're going to get the most out of Quinn Ewers. So it was not an ideal fit. It could have worked, but it was not an ideal fit. Quinn fits much better with Sark's offense, and Malik Murphy fits. So you're starting an arch fit. You're seeing the fit. That's half the battle, Cam, and that's why I feel like the Texas offense, as long as Sark can win the requisite number of games and keep this thing trending in such a direction that will allow him to stay off the hot seat. And I'm not talking about hot seat from Gen Pop, right? Because there's always going to be people, you know, in the outside world that are just not happy with the head coach of Texas. There's people that don't like Sark now, and I'm not bashing those people. I'm just saying, hey, everybody's going to have their opinion. But for the people that matter, if he can stay off the hot seat for the people that matter by winning a requisite number of games and keeping this thing trending in the right direction, that's why I feel good about the Texas offense, because Sark knows what he wants on offense. He knows the kind of quarterbacks he wants. He's capable of landing said quarterbacks. And as long as he's got the right guy pulling the trigger, this offense has a chance to be one of the best in whatever conference Texas is in, whether it's the Big 12 or the SEC. And if you're one of the best offenses in those leagues, then you're in the mix to be one of the best offenses in the country.
It seems like the blueprint for a successful program is you recruit good players. I know it's shocking. You develop them. Then you win games. And it felt like you just went through all the quarterbacks from the end of Mac Brown to Charlie Strong to Herman. Herman had a couple really good recruiting classes there, but besides that, all those guys never developed well. And maybe it goes to your point about not recruiting the type of guys that you want for your own offense instead of recruiting, well, we're going to get this dual threat guy, we're going to get this more of a pocket passer and try and develop. It doesn't work well because your staff isn't designed maybe to develop all types of guys. Like, I don't know if Sark's, obviously Sark's got a really good staff, and I think A.J. Milwee is a really good quarterback developer, but as you mentioned, if they went out and recruited a dual threat running quarterback, I don't know if they're going to develop him the same way they would develop a guy like Quinn or Malik or Arch, because we've already seen what Malik's been able to do. Maybe he was just held back from all the injuries going back to his state championship game in high school, but it looks like he took a significant leap from year one to year two.
Yeah, and you even go back to SC, right? And Washington was a little bit different for Sark because he inherited the quarterback, specifically Jake Locker. Like, that skill set, I don't know. And the same thing when I know he was only at Alabama in 16 for that one, called plays for that one game. He was only there that 1 year. Like, Jalen Hurts isn't the kind of quarterback. And Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. If you kind of, and we've seen the Eagles kind of cater their system to Jalen Hurts. He's a great quarterback if he's in the right system. I don't think Sark's offense, how Sark envisions offensive football be playing, not that he couldn't succeed with Jalen Hurts, but to what we're talking about, Cam, that wouldn't have been an ideal fit. Bryce Young, much better fit. That's why Sark went and recruited him at Bama. Much better fit for Sark's offense. Go look at the quarterback Sark had at SC. All those guys, whether Sark recruited them or coached them, Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, Matt Castle, Mark Sanchez, John David Booty, like Cody Kessler, all those guys, they're all cut from the same cloth, if that makes any sense. And it's really refreshing. Like, I think if Texas fans, I know sometimes, and I do this as a writer too, covering this thing, sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees, but sometimes you got to step back and take a 30,000-foot view of it and just think like, man, it wasn't that long ago where, Ken, what would you say was, I was thinking about this, what would you say was rock bottom? And I was thinking about, it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about the quarterback position in this program being a rock bottom. For you, what was rock bottom? Whether you're following it as a fan or your time in student media, or now, like, what would you say would be rock bottom? Because I got a feeling you're right around the same time I am, or it's maybe a year off from what I just absolute rock bottom for the quarterback position was.
For the quarterback position, see, for overall as a program for Texas, I think the Kansas loss, but I don't know, that was rock bottom for the quarterback position.
See, I think it was right after the Notre Dame game in 2015, because you didn't take a quarterback, you didn't take a transfer quarterback. Like year one, you had
went in not knowing who your quarterback was for that season.
Yeah, and you probably should have taken a quarterback out of the. You didn't have the transfer portal at that time, but you probably should have taken a transfer quarterback going into 14. But like David Ash getting hurt and basically taking the last snap of his career in game one of the Charlie Strong era, we talk about foreshadowing. That was ominous at the time, losing Dom Espinosa in the same game. But then you had to go to Tyrone Swoops because you had no other choice. And they weren't going to burn Gerard Hurd's red shirt at that point because they, at that time, had high hopes for Gerard Hurd as a quarterback. But I think it was the following year when you realized, dude, okay, Swoops isn't the answer. After the Notre Dame game where you lose in South Bend 38-3, you're like, Swoops isn't the answer. And whether Gerard Hurd's ready or not, whether what you're going to do on offense fits him or not, you kind of have no choice but to go to the other guy. To me, that was rock bottom, and it's not necessarily an indictment on those two guys because they're both good dudes. Did you ever get to talk to either one of those guys, Cam?
No.
Gerard Hurd or Tyrone Swoops? Good dudes.
Well, actually, I did. I have met Tyrone before, and he's an incredible human being.
Good dudes. So it's not an indictment on those guys per se. It's just, the situation was what it was, and then on top of the coaching issues with Sean Watson running the offense the way he did, that was rock bottom. That was in 2015. I mean, we're only, as far as you get to the start of the 2022 season, you're only 7 years removed from that. And I think where this program is coming, you do look. You give that Charlie Strong staff credit for landing Shane Buechele. You give them credit for finally going all in on Sam Ehlinger, even though, I don't know, Sam might dispute this if he's listening, or Sam's family members might dispute this if they're listening. I always said, because Jimbo Fisher was still recruiting Sam at the end, like Florida State was, and there was a couple other schools recruiting him. And I'm like, dude, Moncrief could be burning down. It could be burnt to the ground and be ashes. Sam would be there with a shovel to scoop it up. Like, he's going to Texas. Like, I wasn't worried about that. So I don't know if it mattered if Charlie was the coach or not, or Sean Watson or Sterling Gilbert or whatever. But give those guys credit for that. Give Tom Herman credit for Hudson Card and whoever you want to give him credit for. But by the time Sark got the job, the quarterback position was in an infinitely better spot than it was. Definitely where Charlie had it, and even when Tom Herman took the job, you were in a really good spot.
Just having Casey Thompson as a backup for Sam that last year was huge, because throughout the entire 2010s, I mean, we had so many backup quarterbacks have to play because Garrett Gilbert, after his first season at Texas, he wasn't on the lineup. David Ash could never stay healthy. You mentioned Gerard Hurd. You mentioned Tyrone Swoops. Mm-hmm. There was never a solid backup quarterback that you trusted until Shane Buechele, Sam Ehlinger, and a lot of that was, Buechele couldn't stay healthy, and then Ehlinger kind of finally took the reins over, and then even going back to Sark's first year with Thompson and Hudson Card, like, you've never felt good about the quarterback room, and then now here we are in 2023 going in where it's like, man, we got 3 5-star quarterbacks that could be starting at a lot of other D1 schools this season.
When Charlie Strong was the coach, and even kind of late in Mac Brown's tenure, I'll borrow this jargon from Rod Babers because Rod coined it, and I agree 100%. At that point in time, let's say pretty much from 2013 through 2015, you were in quarterback hell at Texas. You were, because then that's the time where the guys that you didn't recruit were winning Heisman trophies, and that's revisionist history. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now anyway. But then you get to Shane Buechele, and now you get, Charlie gets 1 year with Shane Buechele, then you get the Buechele-Ehlinger dynamic with Tom Herman. Now you're in quarterback purgatory. You're not in hell, but you're in kind of quarterback limbo. You're in between. You're moving up, but you're not where you want to be. by the time Tom Herman got fired, Texas was – you were pretty close to dealing with first world problems at the quarterback position. Yeah. You know, you had – I mean, think about that room you had in 2020. You had Sam, you had Casey as the backup, and then you had Hudson Card, really Angie Quinton Jackson as your 3 and 4, kind of your developmental guys.
And Cameron Rising too, right?
Yeah, Cam Rising in 18, yeah.
So that was the year before.
Yeah, that was
even having Rising.
I'm talking about 20. So yeah, you got to go back to 18 where you had Sam was your starter, Shane was your backup, and then you had your developmental guys at that point were Casey and Cam Rising. Yeah. So I mean, I tie all this back to your quarterback room right now with Quinn Ewers, Malik Murphy, Arch Manning, even throw Charles Wright in there if you want to. Trey Owens on the way.
Ben Ballard?
Ben Ballard's actually at FAU now.
Oh, that's right. He transferred for Tom Herman. Excuse me.
Now you're starting to deal with first world problems at the quarterback position again. You're dealing with the issue you ran into like in 2002 where it's like, man, I guess Vince Young's got a red shirt because with one more year of Chris Sims and Chance Mock as the backup and Matt Nordgren as your number 3, don't really need Vince Young. You can just let him redshirt and let him develop. And to your point, Cam, about not trusting the backup quarterback, when you talk about just the overall roster makeup, I think that's where Sark has gotten this thing because we talked a lot about the roster and how good it is. And I've talked to some of my colleagues on the national desk at 24/7 Sports, some of the people at CBS Sports, and whenever I get a phone call or a Slack message or a text like, hey, what's the biggest takeaway from Texas? And my question right back is, well, what do you think it is? And they're like, it's finally, and I'll give away my good friend Kevin Flaherty. I was on the phone with him yesterday. He's like, instead of watching the spring game like Texas looks like Texas is supposed to look. I'm like, yeah, we talked about it, right? That was the biggest takeaway I had from the spring game. Like when you look at that roster on the hoof, it's like, yeah, that's how a Texas team is supposed to look. And that is a tribute to Sark and how they've recruited. But now you're starting to see player development. And guess what? With some other than Kelvin Banks, who was just good enough to go play, you're not having to play freshmen anymore just because. The 4-game redshirt rule has been a godsend from that standpoint, that you can get them their 4 games and still preserve a year. But you haven't been forced to just play freshmen just like, oh, we have nobody else. The freshmen that are playing, the freshmen that played last year, a lot of those guys played because, well, they were the best you had. Like, whether it was DJ Campbell or Cole Hudson, one of those 2 guys was the best interior lineman you had.
And they had to play.
Kelvin Banks was the second best tackle you had. Yeah, but that's a good thing because if they're that good right off the bat, if they're playing out of luxury and not necessity, now you get those guys on the right development track, and now by the time those guys are juniors and seniors, you should have some really good football players. So we'll take your feedback on that on the Specs text line, 337-3776. No, texter, Craig will not be on today. He is traveling to Lawrence, getting ready for the Texas-Kansas baseball series. So Craig will not be with us today. It's just Cam and I. But we'll take a break. We'll continue to take your feedback on Texas football or anything else. Coming back, Inconceivable is going to close out hour number 1 here on Light the Tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital, on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.
Well, you've heard me tell you about Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. Divided Sky, where we could be in for some more stormy weather this coming weekend. And we all know that if you're in need of a new roof, they do great roofs, but they're also a full-service solar company. So as we're about to get in our hottest season, when the higher power bills start arriving, you could be prepared for that and save some money this summer with one of those new Timberline solar shingle roofs. But maybe you already have solar. Maybe you don't have a solar shingle roof, but you have those solar panels or something, but you're not getting it properly serviced. In other words, if you don't have a backup battery for it, then you're wasting money, because with a backup battery, you're able to use all of the power that you make instead of giving it back to the power company. And the batteries are now covered by the Inflation Reduction Act, so you get the extra tax credit involved, which we can all use. John Hardy and his staff are solar experts. They can repair and service your existing solar system. The other roofers that you might hear about are simply selling you a solar roof. Divided Sky Roofing and Solar can repair and service your existing solar system. They're master electricians. They're all NABCET certified. That's the solar version of the master plumber. So trust your roofing and solar needs to the experts at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar. Call them at 512-995-ROOF. Check them out on the web at dividedskyAustin.com. It's TEC license number 37397. When the wind blows high, and we know it will again, call our friends at Divided Sky Roofing and Solar.
If I can get my headphones on and attempt to be a professional broadcaster today. Cam, let's start with an inconceivable in the sports world. Alabama has fired head baseball coach Brad Bohannon. This came this morning from a statement released by the university. Alabama Director of Athletics Greg Byrne announced that he has initiated the termination process. I like that they don't put firing. There's always some fancy wording they have to put behind it. For head baseball coach Brad Bohannon for, among other things, violating the standards, duties, and responsibilities expected of university employees. Bohannon has been relieved of all of his duties, and Jason Jackson will serve as the interim head coach. There will be no further comment at this time, pending an ongoing review. Now, why are we talking about the Alabama baseball coach being fired? Well, the coaching move comes just 3 days after ESPN reported, quote-unquote, suspicious wagering activity surrounding Alabama baseball games played at top-ranked LSU. The Crimson Tide lost all 3 contests. Bohannon and 2 other UA baseball staffers were also sued by former player Blake Bennett for allegedly ignoring injury complaints by the freshman pitcher back in 2019. Cam, you talk about suspicious wagering activity. This is one of the downfalls of, I'm all for legalized gambling because I feel like, from a revenue standpoint, it can, maybe I'm naive, but I feel like, hey, you need money to build roads or fund schools or whatever. Take some of that money that's going to other states and keep it in-house and spread the wealth. But as gambling, daily fantasy, whatever it is, becomes more accessible, this is the tip of the iceberg with this stuff, man. It used to be you had to be like, I don't know, tied in with the mob, like point shaving and stuff like that. You think of it like this seedy underworld. Now, dude, all that stuff can happen on a smartphone.
Yep. You got to be more smart about it. I mean, we just saw the Detroit Lions lose a few players to indefinite suspensions for betting, although it wasn't about the NFL, but betting on NFL property. And also, how does Nick Saban feel? I mean, he wakes up every morning, he's like, all right, great, Nate Oates again? Yeah,
Stoner says on the Specs text line, yet they still have their basketball coach.
Yeah, that's true. But either way.
That's why Nick Saban's so beloved at Alabama. Is like, hey, you're the one coach. You haven't none of your players have been implicated in murder investigations, and you haven't been accused of gambling either. So
worst thing that Nick Saban's done is talk trash about Jimbo Fisher. He's got coaches over here who are violating state laws, federal laws.
Yeah, so I mean, it's gambling is one of those things like you don't when you think, and I don't know if this is the case or not, right? But when you think about addiction, you think about drug addiction, you think about alcoholism. Yeah. Gambling is one of those things you don't think about. And then, man, you hear horror stories of people that get themselves in all kinds of debt. I mean, hundreds of thousands of 7 figures worth of debt.
Phil Mickelson.
Dude, it's tough, man. So but do I expect the NCAA to do anything about this?
No.
No. Never has there been a more delayed reactionary governing body than the NCAA. Cam, I'll give you producer's choice on these last 2. You want a woman profiting off dumpster diving, or do you want a local story?
Oh, dumpster diving.
A story involving a local high school.
If it's high school, we got to do it. Local high school. Let's
go.
All
right. Dayline McCallum High School. No, nobody that I know of. Let me say that.
Okay.
I'd like to think nobody in Austin ISD or any of our surrounding school districts has started a Satan club.
Not even Gerald?
They got a different kind of club than in Gerald. It's, there's
involving sheep or something.
Well, there's a barn and there's siblings involved in it. We'll push that on down the road and save that for later. But students and teachers at McCallum High School, Cam, they've had to repeatedly evict an unusual category of unwanted guests. Apparently, McCallum High School is being overrun by raccoons. The recent raccoon sightings began with a dead raccoon found in a wall on March 10th, which is not good. You're talking about rabies. You gotta be careful. And the incident was followed by a raccoon being caught in a live trap in a science classroom. Y'all over at McCallum, y'all setting up raccoon traps in science lab? Is that what y'all doing over there? Is that going to be on the STAR test?
Instead of hiring pest control. All right, guys, we're going to catch a live raccoon today.
That's a good use of time, though. Yeah. That's a life skill, man. You could set an animal trap, catch you some live game. That was caught on April 10th, and a trio of raccoons being spotted running through a hallway on April 26th. The raccoon sightings inside the school have become so frequent An Instagram account called Mac Raccoon Updates was started to keep track of the visits. Noah Braun, a sophomore who wrote about the raccoons for the school's newspaper, said his research uncovered the school's long past of raccoon problems. He said, quote, there's articles you can find from the 90s and from the early 2000s, even the 2010s, talking about this. AISD officials said they're working to rid the school of its unwelcome visitors. So, hey, any McCallum alums out there, let us know on the Specs text line. Y'all ever deal with the raccoon problem at McCallum when you were a knight roaming the halls?
Shout out that student. Some big J journalism as a sophomore at McCallum.
Dude, he got picked up by the UPI. That's a big deal, man.
There we go, baby.
Yeah.
He'll be a future student in the Moody College of Communications.
There you go. Shout out to all the kids out there working on the school newspaper, getting after it. Last cam, a Pennsylvania woman has turned dumpster diving into a lucrative business after discovering that authentic designer items are often tossed away. Veronica Taylor, 32, of Quakertown, Pennsylvania, teamed up with her friend Liz Wilson, 38, to sell the salvaged items on the auction app Whatnot on live-streamed auctions. Quote, it's really like a real-life treasure hunt, Taylor told news agency SWNS, quote-unquote. It's fantastic. Taylor began dumpster diving with Wilson in June 2022. Initially, it started out as a hobby, something that she said was, quote-unquote, so much fun. But among their finds, a Louis Vuitton wallet, designer shoes, and other goodies. She said she donates most food and hygiene products to charity. Quote, you have no idea what you're going to find, and I can hang out with my best friend and make a living from finding things.
Gotta hustle, baby.
According to Wilson, quote, I want to say we've been getting $4,000 to $5,000 a month.
Sheesh.
It's definitely not worth working a real job for. Well, I'm going to go ahead and guess, since this story is out on Fox News and other outlets, I'm sure now Uncle Sam's going to want his cut of whatever you're making. So,
and we're going to see some listeners maybe doing their own dumpster diving.
Hey, man, my wife's grandmother, she's 77, still dumpster diving.
Yeah.
Finding all kinds of stuff.
Maybe they'll find the set of the Andy Griffith Show like Kramer did.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up next on Light the Tower. On the Horn, live, local, and digital. On the Horn app and at hornfm.com. Tell you what, got to kick back, watch some playoff basketball last night, and I did it on my home entertainment center that was purchased from, set up by, and is top notch, thanks to the folks at Audio Visual Consultations. Give Tom McKay and his crew a call right now, 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. What I loved about working with Tom McKay and AV Consultations is they came out to my house and they put together a project that not only made sense for the budget I had in mind, but it made sense for the amount of space I had in my house. I kept asking Tom over and over, hey, this 75-inch TV that you keep telling me I need to get, it's going to be too big. It's going to be too cumbersome. But you know what? When the job was done, that thing looks perfect for the amount of wall space I have. Same thing for the TVs I had mounted in my home office, in my bedroom. Everything is top of the line. I'm hearing everything crystal clear on that Sonos sound system that AV Consultations installed. We got Wi-Fi extenders put throughout the house so we can stream in multiple rooms. They can do that for you. Whatever your needs are, big or small, just get in touch with AV Consultations. Let them take all the worry out of it for you. If you want that same setup like I've got with the 75-inch LG TV in the living room, they can do that for you. Maybe you've got a little bit of smaller space. Maybe you need something smaller. No problem. They can do that too. Whatever your TV needs are, whatever your audio needs are, if Tom McKay doesn't have it in stock, it's not going to take him long to get it. And if you want to go big, you want to get a full tilt home theater experience put in your house, get you a 150-inch screen, Tom McKay would be more than happy to knock that out for you. Just give him a call right now, 512-255-8678. That's 255-8678. Call right now and let Tom McKay and Audio Visual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment setup of your dreams. Hour number 2 of Light the Tower on the Horn. Jeff Howe, Cameron Parker. No Craig Way today. Craig on his way to Lawrence for the Texas-Kansas baseball series. We should be in touch with Craig tomorrow at some point. He usually checks in from the road. Cameron, we'll clean up the Specs text line coming up here in a minute, and we'll get ready for our Longhorn Notebook at the bottom of the hour. Talk a little Texas basketball, maybe even some Texas football. We'll take your questions on Texas football from our last segment on when we talked about the quarterback / offense / player development, just things starting to look up for the Longhorns. Take your questions on that. 512-337-3776 on the Specs text line. But Texas basketball fans, you might just want to just turn the radio down for a little bit if you're listening in the car, or if you're listening on the app, maybe just, I don't know, play Words with Friends or something for a hot minute. Cameron, we updated our in-house basketball rankings at 24/7 Sports for the class of 2023.
Uh-oh.
And there's a new number 1 prospect in the country.
No, don't say it.
Yeah, it's Ron Holland. yeah, it's Ron Holland.
Oh, Jeff.
And my buddy Brandon Jenkins, who does a really good job covering the state of Texas and national basketball recruiting. I'm just going to read here from what he's got, the latest on Ron Holland's recruitment. Now with the reopened recruitment, Holland has heard from Arkansas, Georgetown, Kansas, Kansas State, Kentucky, and St. John's, while Texas is still in pursuit. In addition to his collegiate options, Holland has also been in talks with the NBA's G League Ignite program. A lot of things working in Arkansas's favor, but the G League will definitely be a player for Ron Holland. And the other thing to talk about is, did you see the big college basketball news that came down a little bit ago? Hunter Dickinson. It's been kind of the crown jewel of the transfer portal, the Michigan transfer. Yeah, he's going to Kansas. So you throw on top of DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams coming back. They get Nick Timberlake out of the transfer portal. They got Arterio Morris out of the transfer portal. They're adding Hunter Dickinson. Newsflash, Kansas is going to be good again. Just in case you didn't know. Like somebody on the flagship message board at Horns 24/7 Cam said, man, Kansas is going to be tough. And then the very next response was, they're always tough. It's Kansas. Like, we expect Bill Self to just think, no, we're good. We don't need to win the Big 12 this year. I've got enough rings. Let somebody else have a shot. No, and especially after losing the way they did in the Big 12 tournament title game to Texas and getting bounced in the second round of the tournament by Arkansas, loaded for bear might be the best way to describe the offseason approach by Kansas. But, Texas not having a bad offseason either. I know the Ron Holland thing hurts, and then that's you can't you can't really spin that in anything but what it is, which is just a negative deal. But Kendall Weaver's finishing up his official visit today. Zarek Onyema finished up his official visit yesterday, so we'll see if he takes another visit or picks Texas. So, again, like I've said, Rodney Terry is going to field a roster. The Texas men will have a basketball team that they'll be able to put on the floor. And it'll have some good players. Caden Shedrick signed his paperwork yesterday. Yep. That became official. We'll wait for whenever Max Asmus, whenever that paperwork goes through compliance and he's official, they'll announce that. So, Texas, there's still plenty of possibilities out there between Onyema and Kendall Weaver and other guys that they're going to target in the portal. The potential to get Tyrese Hunter back. You still got a really good shot at putting together a competitive roster for the 2023-24 season, Rodney Terry's first season on the job. So, any thoughts there, Cam, on any of that I just touched on, other than you just wanting me to move on really quick?
No, going into this last tournament, Kansas was my pick to win it all, and they didn't. But, I mean, losing Grady Dick is, Dick's a great player, but, I mean, they didn't lose anyone else besides that. I mean, DeJuan Harris comes back. KJ Adams, who has really turned into a great player. Him in the front court with Hunter Dickinson will be fun. Dickinson, he's got Final Four experience. He's a good player. I'm interested to see how he looks in Bill Self's offense, because he plays a style of basketball that hasn't faded away, but it's gone away from what the typical bigs you see in college basketball from teams that make the deep runs. But yeah, KU is going to be a very tough out, as it's a very wise flagship message board member said. But also for Texas fans, I know a lot's going to be wrapped up in losing A.J. Johnson and Ron Holland, most likely. I give it probably like a 90% chance. Actually, probably 99% chance Ron Holland does not play at Texas next year. And then, of course, possibly losing Dylan Mitchell. But the transfer portal has been used very wisely by Coach Rodney Terry, and he pulls in one or two more guys. I mean, this is going to be another great Texas roster. I think KU is probably going to win or going to come in with the most first-place votes to win the Big 12 next season. But I think Texas, depending on what happens the next week or two, will be right there at number 2.
Baylor I think is going to have a formidable team, and Baylor still got some draft decisions. I mean, that Baylor roster could look like, hey, they can compete in this league, or they'll be kind of, in the middle of the pack again. And honestly, I want to know what the league schedule is going to look like.
Yeah.
With now 14 teams, I mean, we've already seen it for football. There's just some games. Texas isn't going to play Oklahoma State this year, and there's going to be some opponents that are on the schedule, some that aren't. But with 14 teams, you're not going to be able to play a round robin. So who are the teams Texas is going to play twice?
Houston, Texas is going to be so much fun.
I've got a feeling that based on just proximity, I've got a feeling that Tech. And I don't know how many teams you're going to play twice, but like Tech would be in the mix for Texas to play twice. I think TCU, Baylor, U of H, and OU. I mean, I don't know if that's if you played each 5 of those twice, that'd be 10 games. So then you're looking at where your other game's going to come from, and how many games are you going to play. So I don't know. I'm fascinated to see the basketball schedule and the baseball schedule too. How's the baseball schedule going to play out?
I wonder if Texas will lose any games with Kansas next year. Because I think you mentioned proximity, so I'm guessing the Big 12 was looking at this, okay, how can we keep it as cheap as possible? So I'm thinking Cincinnati's probably going to play the Iowa States, KU.
Oh, like with Cincinnati, West Virginia will play twice for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would think because just it's an East Coast deal, I would think West Virginia and UCF will probably play twice.
I wouldn't be surprised if Texas only plays one game against Cincinnati or Central Florida.
BYU's kind of the outlier too. Like, what do you do with BYU, especially the Big 12, the men don't play games on Sundays anyway. So, it's a whole deal you got to go through, man. I don't know. I don't envy the schedule makers, but that's why like the 14 team thing. For this year, it's gonna cause a 1-year headache for everybody in the
so
Big 12
weird
office.
Because I'm already thinking about SEC, especially during baseball season, and watching SEC baseball. It's like, man, I can't wait for Texas to get there. Oh wait, we still got to play BYU next year in baseball, possibly. It's gonna be an awkward year where you're like, who does Texas play this week? Cincinnati in softball? What?
Yeah, it's kind of like that person who's leaving a company to go to a bigger, better job. And they're training the person that's taking over their job, and maybe they might be checked out a little bit, but they still want to, give it the old college try for the company, their current employer. So it's just one of those weird deals,
Like, oh, Stacy still works here? I thought she put it in her 2 weeks, 3 months ago. Yeah, she's just kind of hanging around the office, just helping out when people need it. That's Texas and OU this next season.
What would you say you do here? All right, let's go to some feedback on the Specs text line. Yes, Texter, you are correct. Blockbuster actually passed on the chance to buy Netflix early on. This texter says, we're talking about shortstop earlier. It says Fridays are catfish day at shortstop. I did not know that. Gambling fanatic, thank you for your contributions. A burger from the old Players. Oh, Cam, did you ever get to experience Players before it closed down? You didn't?
No.
Oh, Players. That's a good burger, man. What are you eating?
A little oatmeal, a little breakfast.
Oatmeal? Okay.
The basic stuff.
What'd you put in that oatmeal?
Just peanut butter.
Seriously? Just peanut butter and oatmeal? You don't put like some fruit in there or something?
No. There's not enough protein in peanut butter.
That sounds pretty bland.
It's oatmeal. It's supposed to be bland. I can't eat breakfast in the morning.
That's something you got to candy up. You got to put like some strawberries or some blueberries, something in there.
My stomach does not like eating breakfast, so oatmeal is like the one thing that I can just kind of put in without just yuking everywhere.
I want to be honest with the listening audience. Another reason why I was running behind this morning. First off, I couldn't find my phone this morning. Like, I lost my phone in the house, and I was like, it took me a good, probably till about 8:15 before I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to. I came to the conclusion. I'm like, either my wife picked it up by accident, or when I was making my daughter's lunch, I put it in my daughter's lunchbox. I'm like, that's the only two places it could be. So I'm sitting down and I'm doing some site stuff. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I was like, I got that Find My iPhone function on my computer.
There you go.
So I pinged it, and the reason why I couldn't find it, I had set it on the back of the couch. So I'm like, I never set my phone on the back of the couch. It's either in my pocket, it's on a table, it's on a counter, something. I just put it one place where I never put it there. So, but I found my phone. And then getting back to your point about your stomach not agreeing with stuff. So in the interest of full disclosure,
the bubble gum, it got to you.
No, I'm treated for Well, maybe, I don't know. That could be part of it. So I'm treated for psoriatic arthritis, it's kind of like my diagnosis from my rheumatologist. It covers a lot of things because I have symptoms of a few different things. Well, part of the deal is I have some symptoms of what could be misdiagnosed as Crohn's disease. And when you have Crohn's type issues, well, I'm at the end of the cycle where I need to, my next shot is on the horizon. I think it's Friday because I take one of those injectable medications. I think I do it like every 12 weeks. And let's just say the Crohn's like symptoms hit at the worst possible time this morning. So, yeah, it was a little, on top of losing my phone, it's a lot going on. A little bit of a rough start this morning.
Well, at least you weren't in the ARN bathroom with the bathroom buddy when that hit.
Dude, I would, you know what? I would rather be in Gerald, Texas than to be in that bathroom on some days. I'm not kidding you, dude. That's a biohazard in there.
We should make like a.
I almost want to keep a mask with me if I have to go into the bathroom.
Third floor bathroom is what I do.
It's awful. It's awful.
And we keep in our group chat between you, me, and Craig, it's like we're updating each other on the bathroom situation.
I don't know who's doing it, right? But whoever goes in there and just destroys it, I'm telling you, the FBI should put you on the terrorist most wanted list. Seriously, because you're a terrorist. You go in there, in when nobody's looking and just completely destroy it, and it's awful and it's wrong, and the rest of us have to pay a terrible price for it.
A lot of love for players on the Specs text line, as per usual.
Here's I love these texts. We're talking about gambling issues with the Alabama baseball coach getting fired. Gambling debt is why Michael Jordan had to retire from the NBA for the first time. That's it's one of those urban legends. David Stern, quote unquote, suspended Michael Jordan for gambling.
Have you seen Air yet?
No, I haven't. Have you seen it?
Yes.
I heard it's basically a big, and I don't know if Sonny Vaccaro was a consultant on that movie. But I heard it's basically like a Sonny Vaccaro love fest. That's what that thing is, by and large.
I mean, he is the main protagonist. Obviously Sonny, kind of burned a lot of bridges throughout his entire life, but also I think that's just his personality. I enjoyed the film. It's not about Michael Jordan. It's about probably Sonny Vaccaro and more about Sonny and Phil Knight. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, two great actors. I enjoyed the film. Enjoyed it a lot.
I just thought it was interesting. There was a 30 for 30 on Sonny Vaccaro, and he had,
just watched it actually.
He had done the Nike deal with Michael Jordan. He had done Kobe Bryant's Adidas deal. He had been working with LeBron, and he was close to all those guys at one point. And then at the very end, it's like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James declined our request to be a part of this documentary. I'm like, well, what does that say about where your relationships are with those guys now? None of them wanted to be a part of that thing.
Ben Affleck and they did a podcast with Bill Simmons about the film, and Bill asked him about what was the relationship like between Sonny and Phil when you were interviewing them for the movie, because obviously it's not good, just like Sonny's relationship with any player. And when Phil Knight asked him, it was did Sonny just basically dump on me when retelling the entire events of what happened? And they're actually no, Sonny said a lot of things nice about Phil. So I guess Sonny's probably regretting a lot of things he did throughout his entire life, but it's a great story. And I mean, without Michael Jordan, who's wearing Nike?
It's still the Sonny Vaccaro 30 for 30 though. That was probably 2014, 13,
it was season 3. Season 3.
Yeah, there was a lot of putting himself over in that deal. I was like, okay.
Well, they couldn't get anyone else to interview. It's like Tracy McGrady was the only big player that he actually signed
that would interview.
Interviewed. It's I would have loved to have heard from Phil Knight. It's like if they did the Last Dance.
And some of the college basketball coaches that he got on Nike deals, wasn't Jim Boeheim a part of that thing? And
John Thompson.
Yeah. Patino, maybe? Was Patino part of that?
I don't remember Patino being in there. But also, that was probably during the times where he was under fire for the Papa John's bathrooms incidents.
And that was an Italian restaurant, sir.
It wasn't okay, so Papa John just owned Louisville,
right? The Papa John's, the original founder, he was he was a big Louisville benefactor at one point.
But he was also under fire for those released audio records.
Yeah, he's man, you say some racist stuff on a call that someone's recording, it's probably gonna get out.
Yep.
It's bad. It's a bad deal. All right, so we're getting some text on the McCallum raccoon discussion. So this guy said my buddy's wife is a counselor there at McCallum. She had a raccoon cam on her desk the other day, allegedly. Matt grad of class of 77 and reporting that back then, negative on the raccoon issue. Pooped 11 times in one day. Thank you for your service to the Specs text line. I went to McCallum back in the day, and we had a large rat problem as well. Apparently, wild animals like the liberal arts program, the performing arts program. The performing arts building is kind of off. It's usually off, set away from the school, kind of on its own deal. You're either going to find animal infestation either in the performing arts building, band hall, whatever it is, or the field house. We used to have bats in the field house back in the day, Cam.
How do these teachers work there with raccoons on their desk?
Dude, I don't know. That's wild. Like I said, most of your rodent vermin infestation, most of that's held to the band hall or the field house. Do you start, if I'm a counselor, I get a raccoon on my desk, somebody in administration is going to hear from me. Maybe need the kids in the science class to build some more raccoon traps.
Yeah.
Set them all up around the school. This texter just wanted us to know, Cam, that they miss Craig, but said you and I do a good job. Oh, it's George. Thank you, sir.
We miss Craig as well.
Much appreciated. McCallum class of 85, no raccoon sightings. All right, so there you go. So apparently it's a new problem at McCallum. This isn't like a generations old deal, as has been reported. Well, the student reporter did say it was back in the 90s, so I guess if you went to McCallum in the 70s or the 80s, probably wasn't that big of a deal. Bevo Lynch Jason, we were talking about the Big 12 scheduling. He said maybe they break into divisions. I don't know, because the SEC is going away from the divisional format too. So I just think the division thing is just going out of style. Plus, what are you going to do, divisions for 1 year?
Yeah.
And I got to think the Big 12 is going to be aggressive in expansion. Looking to add some members. Sexter said, do you still own a laminate membership card from Blockbuster? No, I don't. And there's 2 items that when I was watching that documentary, I was like, man, it's a shame I don't have them anymore. One was because I had your employee card. It was the same as everybody else's laminate card. That's just what you used to clock in and out was your badge. And then my employee badge that I had to wear around my neck, my lanyard. I don't know where either one of those are. I'm sure it's in a box that was in a storage unit that's been thrown away long, long ago.
You could probably sell it at an auction in a couple of years and get some money.
Highly unfortunate that I don't have one of those. I may just go out to Bend, Oregon and get me the last standing Blockbuster and get me a membership card just to have one.
How does that work? How is that still functioning? Because when's the last time you used a DVD to watch a movie?
I had been using a DVD player. We have a Blu-ray player, and I had been using it for Christmas movies. But Netflix or Apple Plus all our Christmas movies are
pretty much
on demand now. Amazon Prime, whatever it is, we don't use the Blu-ray player anymore. Just kind of there. The only things I would watch on it, I've got the Texas USC Rose Bowl on a DVD.
Yeah,
in my office. True. I've got the entire Rocky series if I ever want to watch that. But most of those are on AMC anyway, so just tune in whenever Rocky's on.
I have the 04 Michigan-Texas game on DVD as well.
I still have not seen the 05 Ohio State game all the way through.
Really?
Yeah. That's on my to-do list at one point.
Great game.
Cam, a lot of people said overnight oats, peanut butter, honey, cinnamon, and yogurt. I'm talking about your breakfast choice there.
Yeah, good stuff.
A lot of love for players. Double meat bacon cheeseburgers with a chocolate shake led to my freshman 15. Yeah, that can happen. Says shortstops, French fries, and Big Red fountain drinks. Fantastic. Not to mention the hamburgers were delicious. Thank you, Jimmy, for that text. This texter says, I got to stop living in high school. I'm not living in high school. I'm just warning this because, look, this area, this part of the country is blowing up, man. People are moving here in droves. But then again, maybe, I don't know, maybe people if you're moving here from California or New York or whatever, maybe you want people to get out of the state of Texas as fast as they got here, maybe just let them set up shop in Jarrell, and maybe they'll be on their way in 6 months to a year.
There you go.
You're like, man, Texas isn't that great. I'm getting out of here.
Just make the bottleneck traffic at I-45 and 35 just even worse for me and Craig.
No, see, if we had to wear masks into the bathroom when, the unnamed terrorist goes in there and blows it up, we're not going to do the Laramie Tunsil bong mask. That's still wild, man. You see this picture, Cam? You remember this, right? The Laramie Tunsil bong mask that got released draft night?
Yeah.
That's wild, man. I saw a clip was one of those like YouTube shorts or something, and these dudes were trying to blaze one, but instead of masks, they had rigged up like it was some kind of mask contraption, but with like, the empty water cooler jugs. They were using that, and one of them caught on fire, and it just created a big old mess. I'm like, why would you use plastic? Like, well, I guess if you're making that apparatus, then you're probably losing a few brain cells anyway. But
what did Craig say? Blazing fatties?
Blazing a fatty?
And hooping or something?
Splitting a hoof, hoofing a spluff. Yeah, something. I did, speaking of apparatuses, Cam, I don't know if you ever got this creative during your time on the 40 acres, but in college we once made a beer bong with a road cone and a snorkel mask.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It got the job done. I don't remember what we named that one. I think that was because we named all our bongs. We had one that was made out of went and bought a gas can one time. That was Massive Head Wound Harry. I think the road cone was Harry and the Hendersons. But yeah, they all had different names.
I've seen
it's kind of a takeoff on the half-baked bit a little bit. But
what's going around now is like you have like a bucket around your head basically, and you have a snorkel, and you just dump beer into it, and you have to drink your way out of it. That's what's going on right now with the kids, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm glad I got out of college. I've said this before. I'm glad I got out of college before butt chugging was a thing. I remember when that. You remember when that whole fiasco happened? I'm like, dude. No, just ingesting alcohol down my gullet has always worked just fine if I ever want to have a good time. That's when I realized, okay, drinking games and how you get drunk, it jumped the shark at that point.
We had a kid who did that in my high school. His last name, Cheeks. Not even making it up.
Unreal. So
he was destined for it.
So like, did he?
I don't know if we want to get into this discussion.
No. You brought it up, okay. So we're doing it. So did he?
I was not there for it. I just heard.
Did he make sure that like this was visible, or did he do it on his own and then told people about it?
No, I think it was in front of people.
Okay. So what was the end result?
I don't know actually, but I don't think he's. I'm very curious what he's up to nowadays. You only know that he participated in the actual act of a butt chug. He was pretty proud of it.
He was proud
of it. Yeah.
I mean, did he get drunk?
I don't know. Actually,
did it get into his system faster?
I don't know.
Didn't some kid at the University of Tennessee die because of that? Wasn't that some frat house deal? Some kid at Tennessee either died or almost died from butt chugging. That's how I knew it was a thing when it made it onto the news. Just like flipping channels one night, like I don't know, like NBC Nightly News or ABC World News Tonight, and I'm like, man, must be a slow news day if they're talking about butt chugging. But if some kid died, then I guess we have to go down that road, then, don't we? Talking about more Blockbuster stuff. Oh man, see, MJ from Hearn opened up one of his 90 Tops wax packs that he sent us. He had a Ken Griffey Jr. second year card in there, so I'm doubting that's not gonna be. I'm pretty sure I won't find one of those in my packs. Hooting a spliff is what Craig said yesterday. I'd never heard that one before. Beeble Lunch Jason says, I somehow found a rare Blu-ray DVD of the 2005 National Championship game. The only reason to have DVDs is for your top favorite movies, TV shows, and concert. I agree. I've got like the first, but see, it's one of those deals. I've got like the 30 for 30 Blu-ray box set with like the first 30 on them, what were supposed to be the original 30, but I pay for ESPN Plus now, and I can get them all on there, whichever ones I want to watch. So, all right, that's going to do it for Specs text line feedback and Cameron delighting us with stories about oatmeal and butt chugging and everything in between. Not that those two things go together, because Cameron, I don't think, endorses either one of those going together. But
I do not.
There you have it. All right, we'll take a break, come back, flex update, and our second hour Longhorn Notebook coming up next on Light the Tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.
You know, you've heard me tell you about our friends at Total Men's Primary Care, and if you're trying to schedule a physical or you need to get that done and you haven't done that, or maybe there's a weight loss issue, you want to have some consultation about that. Maybe you're battling low T, 1 out of every 3 guys at or above the age of 40 has a real shot to unfortunately have to be dealing with that. Well, they have online scheduling and same-day appointments. You go to TotalMens.com. There'll be a yellow button that says book an appointment. You click on that, and you're able to do that. They have mobile check-in available. There's no wait, and free with most insurance plans as well about getting a physical. Why do you want to get a physical? If you've ever ignored a check engine light, you know how quickly that an easy fix can become a major issue. So don't make the same mistake with your body. Stay ahead of problems with their fast and easy annual checkups. Go to the website, again, TotalMens.com to book an appointment. Total Men's Primary Care, the doctor's office just for men.
All right, Cam, you're right. I opened up Pandora's box on the conversation that we had last segment.
I'm getting text messages, Jeff, about this.
From friends or?
Yes, all the above.
Give me an example of the kind of text you're getting.
I got one was talking about it, and he was like, made it to my bathroom just in time after this conversation driving home. So apparently we're having an effect on people's bowel movements this morning. This is incredible sports talk radio, I think.
All right, I'm gonna read this text against my better judgment.
Oh no.
And we'll move on from the topic. Texter says, my wife was an ER nurse and a girl came in because she soaked let's say a feminine hygiene product in vodka, and I think you can finish the story from here.
Yeah, I think we can.
Apparently the blood alcohol level was insane at that point. So yeah, that's I'll take the blame for that. That's a dang coaching mistake on my part. And I've got plenty of your texts like that, and I'm not going to read any more of them. So thank you, texters, on the Spec text line.
I mean, I'm from the generation that ate Tide Pods, so I'm not really surprised by anything that goes on.
Yeah. That act that we talked about, that was jumping the shark. Dude, I don't know where Tide Pods, that just went straight into idiocracy at that point.
Yeah. Just no brain cells.
It's one of those deals, like I always wondered, like you just see warning labels on stuff that you're like, Like you got like a toaster, like please do not drop this in water while you're in water. I'm like, well, they wouldn't put that label on there if somebody hadn't have done that already.
People lack judgment.
I mean, so I don't know. There's some kind of scientific term that's not coming to me right now, but I don't know if survival of the fittest or natural selection or something.
Darwinism.
Something ain't right there on all that stuff. So. All right, and speaking of, we're talking about vermin, rodents, unwanted guests. This secretary says, I had a bat flying in my human sexuality class in Belmont Hall in 1981. The Campbell twins were in the class. They were the first two out of the classroom. Yeah, man, dude, bats are nothing to be trifled with. Remember Manu Ginobili picked up that bat one time at the AT&T Center, and then, dude, I don't know if anybody's ever had to get rabies shots, but apparently, like, when you have to go get rabies shots, it's like a metric crap ton of shots you have to take.
Yeah.
It sounds like just a god-awful time. Like, not a fun day in the ER to get you some rabies shots. So, Cam, what do you say we get to our Flex Update?
Yeah, you want to do that?
Let's get to our Flex Update. Let's do that right now.
Flex ATX for the best high school sports coverage. Listen to the Horn and go to FLXATX.com. Flex 30 is brought to you by Brain Vault. Brain Vault is a revolutionary and patented mouthguard that has been proven to help reduce the risk of concussion. Visit BrainVault.com and join the movement.
Thank you to Dr. Greg Eckert, and the folks at Brain Vault for sponsoring our Flex Update. All right, Cam, what do we have?
Yeah, I got a text earlier in the show before all the other stuff we got into, asking when they can see Travis Sikora pitch next. You can tonight. On the bump as high school baseball playoffs underway, the by-district round. And if you want to see Travis Sikora, who I saw in a latest mock draft go 55th, Jeff, overall, he'll be starting the night for Round Rock. They're playing Buda Johnson in the by-district round. Game 1 tonight, 7 o'clock at the Dragon Diamond. Same time tomorrow at Buda Johnson, best of 3 series. So if you want to see Travis Sikora and the 14-0 Round Rock Dragons hit the diamond, you can do that tonight. Westlake.
Is the real quick, Cam, is the 1-game playoff, is that off the table now?
Yeah, I think so.
High school baseball?
Yes.
Okay.
I
knew it was going to at some point. I didn't know if that went into effect this year or not.
Yeah. Other games around the area, Jeff, Westlake, whose basically entire team is committed, signed in some way or fashion to Texas. Chance Cofer, I believe, getting the start tonight. They're playing Vandergrift. That's a fun little non-district rivalry for those two kids. That'll be a fun series. Vandergrift, they're in the 25-6. They finished 4th this season. Braden Buchanan, he was out for most of the year with some injuries as well, so a big loss for the Vipers. But that'll be a fun series. Elsewhere, Vista Ridge and Bowie, I think Hank Howard on the mound for the Vista Ridge tonight. Lake Travis and Westwood, Caden Leone, believe getting the start. Westwood will have a Texas signee as well. Ridge Morgan, the lefty, or commitment, excuse me. He'll be on the mound for them. Hutto and Lake Ridge also in 6A. Then some 5A matchups for you, Jeff. Rouse versus New Braunfels Canyons. Cedar Park versus Kerrville Tivy. Actually,
fighting Johnny Manziel's.
Finally said Tivy correctly. Proud of myself. Liberty Hill versus Bernie
How
Champion.
have you been saying it?
Tivy.
Oh, that's a bad call. But
I mean,
proceed.
it's spelled like Tivy, but it's all right. Buda Hayes versus Smithson Valley. Georgetown.
Just Hayes, remember? Just Hayes.
Okay, just Hayes.
Just Hayes.
Hayes, excuse me, for Smithson Valley. Georgetown looking to go back-to-back. They start their playoff run against Navarro. Elgin first Crockett, and then Laza first Pflugerville. And real quick on Laza, Jeff, last night with our Flex ATX show with Zach Lucero, Nolan Hogan, we had Derek Lewis, the new head coach. Well, not new, this is his second season, but the head football coach and athletic director of Laza. He came on the show. He's a guy, he has the juice, they might say. I mean, listen to him talk last night. I mean, he had us fired up. He's really excited about the program. Nice. I mean, it's an arts and science academy, and they made playoff runs so far in basketball, softball, and now baseball. I mean, they have Sophie's son, who is committed to Harvard to play softball. So a really up-and-coming athletic program for an arts and science academy, and it's a tough landscape in Centex, Jeff, as you all know, to compete and to try and build a solid program in any sport and what Laza is doing there. Now they're trying to do it in the football field. They got some great guys. So their baseball run starts against Pflugerville. Then some 4A schools, Wimberley versus Navarro, Marble Falls versus Gatesville, Burnett versus Salado, home of Eric Rain, Salado. And then a team that's near and dear to your heart, Jeff. Gerald, taking on Robinson tonight.
Oh, Rockets. Where's that game being played at?
I do not know.
Okay.
But also in last night, we had Anderson's Ed Small and his dad, Clint Small, in the studio. Great show, Ed Small. Also another Texas commit. Texas commit. He's just a sophomore. He'll be a junior next year. A great receiver for the Trojans as well.
I was going to say, because we know David Pierce listens to the show. In the fall, when we talk about Ed Small being really good on the football, all flex selection wide receiver, by the way, is David Pierce like, hey guys, shut up. I want to get this kid for baseball. I don't need football schools coming after him.
Well, we talked about him on the show last night, actually. So hornfm.com, flexatx.com for the Flex ATX podcast. And we talked about, I mean, he's a sophomore, and he announced his commitment, I believe, in December to play baseball for Texas when he easily could play football probably at a D1 level. Mm-hmm. We talked about his reasoning for going ahead to commit to Texas when he still has 2 more years left. He's going to be getting looks at in football and baseball no matter what. And asked him about his decision to commit to Texas early on, and he said, hey, as a kid, I always had a dream of playing baseball for the University of Texas at Austin.
There you go. All right. So we'll see what happens. Again, go to hornfm.com, get that interview with Ed Small that the Flex guys did last night. All right, let's go to this hour's edition of the Longhorn Notebook.
Jeff Howe's Longhorn Notebook.
Cameron, we went like probably 30 minutes on the first hour notebook. Anything that we didn't cover football wise that you think was worth? Again, get over to hornfm.com, or if you subscribe to our podcast feed, wherever you get your Horn podcasts after they're posted. First hour notebook covers a lot of Malik Murphy / quarterback stuff for the Longhorns. Also, get over to Horns 24/7. My colleague Chip Brown has his insider piece. It is a deep dive into Malik Murphy, talking to several people close to him. So get over there and check that out. Just kind of getting inside his mind, and in terms of kind of what he's thinking by not entertaining the transfer portal and seeing it through at Texas, because he believes he can compete for the job. Cam, is there any of that Sark audio? Now that I'm thinking about it, is there any of the Sark audio we haven't gotten to?
No, I think we actually have covered it.
We got
all
it.
After
we
3
did.
weeks.
We get it all. We got it all.
Yeah,
it's only been a week.
Okay, it's felt like 3 weeks. It's felt like every show we've talked about the Sark audio.
I just want to make sure we got it. We got it done, because Sark's going to go on the road and doing speaking tours again next week. So I want to make sure we
got through
the deck
most
cleared and everything's good to go. Good deal. So get over to Horns 24/7 and check that out. Just to recap on the basketball front. Kendall Weaver from UTA, the reigning WAC Freshman of the Year. He's on campus right now for his official visit. Zarek Oyema, the UTEP 6'8" forward from UTEP, he wrapped up his official visit to Texas last night. So Rodney Terry and company still hitting the transfer portal, still looking for additions to the 23-24 roster. Not stopping there. They're keeping several irons in the fire, I can tell you that much.
And still waiting on official announcements from Tyrese Hunter and Dylan Mitchell too.
Yeah, both those guys, they've gotten till the end of the month, to May 31st, I believe is the deadline, to, if you're going to withdraw from the draft and maintain eligibility, that's when you have to do it by. I do think, though, I want to say it's either the 11th or the 13th, one of those 2 days. And I think this document I was looking at earlier, it was just strictly NBA deadline. I don't think it talked about the transfer portal deadline. But I do think the transfer portal deadline, I want to say it's next Saturday. I want to say it's the 13th. So to get yourself into the transfer portal, you got to enter by then. I do think you'll see a wave of guys that want to come back to college but want to play elsewhere. I think you'll see another wave of guys be in the transfer portal, because that list is ridiculously long of underclassmen that declared for the draft that still have eligibility available. So I wouldn't doubt if, RT and company, if they just attack what's in front of them right now and then maybe wait until, I guess, what would that be, the third, maybe fourth wave of transfer portal guys, those guys that are going to come back but don't want to return to their previous school. They want to come back to school and go somewhere else. So just keep that in mind as we get closer. Actually, let me see if I can find the basketball transfer portal deadline. I want to say it's either the 11th or the 13th. I've got to keep track of football portal, basketball portal.
A lot of portals.
Yeah.
Well, while you're looking that up, Jeff, I feel like there needs to be some change in the timeline, because if players have until the 30th to decide.
May 11th. Yeah, May 11th is the deadline. So that'd be a week from today. Yeah.
It's you're walking a tightrope as a coach you're trying to recruit players out of the portal, but you're also waiting on your guys to find out they're going to come back or not. So I feel like the timeline needs to change in terms of, okay, why don't you open up the portal until after the deadline for the NBA draft?
Because there are more, and I've kind of heard this argument with football, but I don't really buy it. Like I've heard, Lincoln Riley and other guys say they miss a week on the road. Like if you play in a conference championship game, that's a week you're missing out to get on the road and see recruits. I don't buy that as much as something like a portal deadline. It almost penalizes teams that make deeper runs in the NCAA tournament. Because while Texas was getting ready for the Sweet 16 and ultimately an Elite 8, the teams that were already knocked out of the tournament at that point, they got a de facto head start. And you throw on top of that, Rodney Terry's getting a team ready to go to the Sweet 16 where he doesn't know for sure if he's going to be the head coach of that program in a few weeks. Yeah. So that was compounded for Texas. But I do think I would like to see, like, maybe I think a great time, what a great time to open the portal would be? Like the national championship games played on a Monday, right? Do it at 11:50 or 12:01. I guess it would be 12:01 a.m. that Wednesday. So you get the national championship game on Monday. You get Tuesday to regroup, and then at 12:01 a.m. on Wednesday, after the national championship game, then the portal window can open, and then everybody's on the same playing field. It's like if you're just playing for a national championship like UConn, you say, well, Danny Hurley and the staff, they're going to miss a day or two for the parade and whatnot. Okay. You got enough juice from winning a national championship. I don't think you're going to have a problem adding guys in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be okay. So that's where it can get kind of nitpicky, but I do think that would be – is that kind of what you're thinking, Cam? Just push it back a little bit for hoops?
Yeah, either that or change the deadline for the guys to decide they're going to want to enter the draft. But, of course, the draft isn't until July, and you have NBA playoffs going on. So it's just a weird space right now. And, I mean, the NCAA is not even trying.
So you're saying the portal should close okay. Let me stop stuttering and just rewind that. 3, 2, 1. You're saying the portal deadline and the NBA draft withdrawal deadline should be closer to each other than they are right now.
Because I'm thinking of this as a Texas fan right now, and so if I'm Rodney Terry, it's like you're waiting to hear back on Tyrese Hunter and Dylan Mitchell, but you also got to figure out a way to rebuild your roster. And, if you take in a couple guys, is that going to deter Tyrese Hunter and Mitchell from coming back? Because, I got this draft grade, but you just got this transfer portal point guard that's going to be taking minutes away from me. You got this 4 who's going to be taking minutes away from me. So I feel like as a coach, you would rather know who's going to be coming back first before you hit the transfer portal and try and find guys. But, that's just a perfect world and we don't live in one.
Right. No, I do think they could be closer together because when you think about it, the portal deadline, the portal closes on the 11th. The draft deadline is at the end of the month. You basically got 3 full weeks between the time the portal closes and the time guys can withdraw from the draft and still be eligible to come back to school.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. That could be closer, but we'll see how it all plays out for Rodney Terry and company in the 40 acres. All right, we'll take a break, come back, close out this edition of Light the Tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.
I was kidding with Tom McKay and, talking about the NHL playoffs and all that sort of stuff. But the great thing about Tom is he and his crew can make sure that you're enjoying, whether it's NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball. I was watching college baseball, streaming it last night. You can get all of that stuff put in the order and the style and the design that you have for wanting your home entertainment experience to be the best experience you've ever had. That's what Audiovisual Consultations does. Tom and his staff will show up at your place. You tell them where you want it, how you want this thing to do. They'll work with you with the vision that you have for the space, be it the den or family room or bedroom, your man cave, whatever it might be. And they'll also work with your budget, too, to make sure that it didn't blow your budget out as well, because Tom's price is very competitive, and he's not raising prices like so many others. You don't have to worry about the mounting, the equipment, and going out and shopping for the 75-inch HD TV. They'll go through all of that with you and be able to lay their hands on whatever really is on your mind. Check them out today online at avconsultations.com. Give Tom and his staff a call at 512-255-8678. Let Tom McCann Audiovisual Consultations help you realize the home entertainment dreams.
Another one of them flip mode joints. Bust around, y'all. Word mother, y'all. Check it out, y'all. Just swing to the left, swing to the right. Make it feel good, make it feel alright. One time, feel good, yeah, y'all. Bust around in the place, y'all. Nigga, you feel real good, y'all. Flip mode, the squad in the place, y'all. Buck wild for all of my people who don't care. Blow
There you go. A little Busta Rhymes as we wrap up our broadcast day here on Light the Tower. Chad and Zay doing that album swap this week. Cam. Chad had to listen to a Busta Rhymes album.
Okay.
What did Zay have to listen to? I don't remember what Zay had to listen to. I know Chad has Busta Rhymes.
Okay. You a big Busta guy?
I wanted this album, When Disaster Strikes, but Zay went with the first album. So I think Zay wishes he had a mulligan on that. But it's okay. It's okay. As long as Chad gets indoctrinated into Busta Rhymes, that's good. Cam, what you got going on tonight?
Some Round Rock, Buda Johnson High School baseball by district, 7 o'clock first pitch. Travis Secor on the bump for the Dragons. He's 7-0 this season. He's had an incredible year and most likely going to be a first, second round draft pick. He is signed to the University of Texas, so we'll see what happens there. But it should be an exciting game. And if you want to come out to the Rock Diamond.
It's right there by Dragon Stadium, right off of 620. Round Rock High School, one of the easiest high schools to get to.
Yep.
Don't need Waze or Google Maps to get me to Round Rock High School.
But there is one caveat: 620 is under construction, like every other road in this.
Dude, as if
city.
620 isn't bad enough. Like, ugh.
What they're doing, I think it'll be better. But I mean, it's anything around 5, 6 o'clock. It's just like you're just gonna have to suck it up.
That's just like driving on 620 is like, okay, I just got shot in the arm and I need to go to the hospital. But driving on 620 under construction, it's like, okay, I got shot in the arm and I need to go to the hospital, but I don't have a motorized vehicle and I've got a peg leg also. So it's gonna be rough. So
text line saying that Chad picked an Aerosmith album. So I would love to know. Is it Toys in the Attic?
That's right. Yes, that's what it was.
You know what album it is? Toys in the Attic?
Yes, Toys in the Attic, yes. I don't know why I couldn't remember
album.
that. Don't know why I couldn't remember that. You big Aerosmith guy, Cam?
Yeah, they're doing their farewell tour. Kind of curious to see little Joe Perry. Is Steven Tyler still singing? I know he's had some accidents lately.
He's doing something that's in the realm of singing. I don't know if I would call it singing at this point in his career.
So I didn't own any Guitar Hero games until Guitar Hero Aerosmith. And my mom didn't want me to get it, but my dad got it for me and changed my life.
All right. Well, hopefully we talk to Craig tomorrow when he's in Lawrence getting ready for the Texas-Kansas baseball series. We'll run down everything going on the 40 acres this weekend tomorrow. Cam, great job today.
Thank you, sir.
Stay tuned. Chad and Zay coming up next, and I will join them at 1:05. For the absent Craig Way, for Cameron Parker, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for listening, and we will be back tomorrow to Light the Tower on the Horn, live, local, and digital, on the Horn app and at hornfm.com.